So help me sing this song. Your love is great. Your love is gracious.
You fill my heart with so much peace and joy. You're amazing, you're amazing. You make my life feel brand new. You're so amazing, you're amazing. You make my life feel brand new. Oh, Jesus, you love me too much, oh, too much, oh, too much, oh, excess love, oh. Jesus, you love me too much, oh, too much, oh, too much, oh, excess love, oh. Jesus, you love me too much, oh, too much, oh, excess love, yeah. Jesus, you love me too much, oh, too much, oh, excess
Such abundance of love. Who can love us like you love? We are comforted in this love. And this is what gives us reason to love one another. For by this love, all the world will know that indeed we are your disciples. Thank you that you are here today, this morning, to climax what you began with us on Friday. Mighty God, let the fountain of love be opened upon this service. Let any of us that has not experienced what it means to be loved begin to have a taste of this great love that is of you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you that you are here. In Jesus' name. Amen. Please be seated. Whoa. Hey, my dear, I didn't know you sing so well like that. Yeah. Yeah. She's one of the sweet ladies. She was one of our leaders at Ogwao Christian Fellowship. It's good to be back. And it's good to see you today. And the Lord bless as many of you that have been part of these times of engagement from Friday. Have you been learning something at all? Yeah. It's an honor to be here today. Today we are climaxing and I speak about practicing for love. Now, what did we speak on Friday? And what did we speak on yesterday? And today we are speaking on practicing for love. Hallelujah. It's an honor to come with a very strong entourage this morning. You know, sometimes you don't know the future of people. You know, sometimes when you see some servant of God, some servants of God just pop up on TV, we begin to make statements like, where was he? He just came on the scene and he's so popular. No. A lot of times people don't know the beginnings of great men and women. So in their seasons of the wilderness when nobody knew them, no attention gets to them until God gives them a breakthrough. These are great servants of God. I respect them so much. And it's a big honor that they accompanied me to today's service. Osofo Dixon was with me on Friday. Yesterday he was around but actually hidden at the back. He's a great servant of God. Can we put our hands together for him? Osofo Eben, very serviceable. Call Eben anytime and he is there. Great service to myself, my family. Let's put our hands together for Eben. The apostle and prophet. Osofo Kwame Tim is another great servant of God with a strong ministry. You will hear about him soon. A lot of you actually probably know him already. And Osofo Frank is actually my lecturer. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you so much for coming. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 5, verse 14. And somebody else help me go to 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7b to 8. Then 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Thank you. Verse 24 and 25. Forgive me, I think for the number of days I've been speaking, my voice has been strained a bit. And it's part of the things I'm going to talk about today. Something called stamina. Say stamina. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why we need to practice love. But anybody in any of these scriptures, where is right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Anybody with the NIV to take that same scripture for me? Yes, listen. Mm-hmm. By constant use have trained themselves. I'm speaking about practice. I'm speaking about training. By constant use, they have gone through training. Look at the 1 Timothy chapter 4. These scriptures speak about very similar things. 1 Timothy 4, 7b and 8. What does it say? Somebody there to read that for me. Mm-hmm. Exercise thyself unto godliness. 8. Mm-hmm. So, just as there is bodily exercise for a short while profit, the 7b says something about exercise. It says what? We should exercise what? Exercise unto godliness, because godliness has an eternal profit. There's a place for training. There's a place for exercise. There's a place for practice. Let's take the last scripture. First Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 and 25. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Take the 25 again for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He goes into strict training. Everyone that competes in the games goes into strict training. To be godly, you go into strict training. To be part of the games, you go into strict training. So Paul says that just as in the games, just as in athletics, people who go into strict training, the one that wants to win and complete this Christian journey ought to go through strict training. It applies everywhere. It's a spiritual principle. The one that refuses to undergo capacity building, training and equipping does not become built up enough to be effective in that endeavor. We cannot talk about love without talking about exercising, training, and being equipped and practicing to be effective at it. It is a daily effort. Day after day, we gain mastery in the subject of love. So that if it is possible, we have people who have first degree in love. We have others who hold MPhil in love. And we have the doctors in love. Now, one of the truths you will find is that we train or exercise or practice for things that do not come to us naturally. We usually will subject ourselves to training because the very thing we are training for is not something that without the training we can't be good at. No. Who is the very muscular guy here? The most muscular guy here? I'm not talking about food-induced one. No. I'm talking about the gym-induced one. I was shocked to the core one of these days when I met one of my juniors from the senior high school. And in the senior high school, people who were very smallish. We used to call them pies. He's a very smallish guy. And I met him, and this is he's my height now, and the kind of muscles that he has. And I asked him, you look different. What changed? He made a profound statement. He said, I realized what I was missing. I knew what I didn't have. I had to use what I have to get what I wanted. He said, I gave myself to gymming. And you meet him today, it is nowhere compared to the kind of guy we knew him to be far back in the senior high school. Tudor Bismarck said something. Whatsoever you give yourself on to gives back to you. Find out from these brethren here. And they play so well. That's one thing about Pentefel I'll always confess. Your music is always excellent. Yeah. These guys play so well. But can you find out from them the number of hours that went into practicing? You know why some of us, when you give us the microphone, no matter if it is just 5 minutes to time, say, oh, the speaker is not coming. Can you step in to preach? And we'll still be able to preach powerfully. And you wonder, where did this guy prepare? In just 5 minutes, he's been able to preach. He's able to do that because he's giving his life onto scripture. And so no matter the time that you wake him up to expound scripture, what he has given himself to, he has given back unto him. That's his life. The hours of investment in learning how to play the keyboard is given back in the kind of melody that they are able to produce. When I sit behind that thing looks like a toy to me. It makes no sense when I touch it. But let the one who has invested time and energy and training sit behind it, and it makes meaning and sense. We practice for the things that do not come to us naturally. I submit to you, beloved in the Lord, love is not one of the natural things of the human experience. We are selfish by nature. John Maxwell said, well, you think you are not selfish, right? So why do you take selfies? And he said another interesting thing. He said that when you take a picture, how do you judge how nice the picture is? When a person shows the picture to you. Oh, this is very nice, this is very nice. What you are actually saying is that I look very good in the picture. The very moment you feel you didn't appear well, oh, let's take another one, let's take another one. It is an indication of our nature, our selfish nature. So the one that wants to live a life of love, to find love and to keep love, must first and foremost learn how to build capacity in love and train himself in love, so that love now becomes a natural part of yourself. Am I communicating? When you go to the book of Ezekiel chapter 16 verse number 8, talks about Israel, God's relationship with Israel. Said, I found you when you were born, and with all the blood around you, I took care of you. And later, so many years after, when I passed by and saw that you were matured enough for love. That means that every one of us goes through a certain process to get to a point of maturity where we can say boldly that I've come to a point where I can express love for real. I am qualified to find love, and I'm qualified to take care of somebody's son or daughter. Practicing for love. Now let me give you a few signs that people are not ready for love. And I say this because I've been counseling a lot of people, and one of the people recently, I got involved in their marriage issue, and it pained my heart. Especially when my daughters, who I know are very, very sweet in spirit, find them get into a kind of a marriage that is tearing their lives apart. And this is just after 2 years of marriage. Listen to me, I don't do this relationship talk thing simply because I want to be known. I've been doing this work for 10 years. I handle a lot of subjects based on passion. We've been running Men Only Conference purely on passion. You can ask them. We don't care whether we make a name or not. But I know people who hell is better than the kind of experience they are having in marriage. One of my friends tells me, Victor, I wish my wife was dead. Because I know that as a Christian and as a pastor that I am, I cannot divorce her. The only thing that can give me the reason to divorce her is when she's gone. And that covenant is broken. So these are a few things to tell you that somebody is not ready for love and is actually not being somebody who has practiced love to have a little mastery in it. Number one, when people begin to get too independent, it tells you they are not ready for love. They are self-sufficient. When you begin to work with somebody who doesn't care whether you call or not because your call doesn't do anything to him, he's not ready for a love commitment yet. And that's why a lot of you enter into relationships and every day is complaining and it's just a one-way traffic. It is just communication from your end. The guy was simply not ready for a new person in his life. He is still very self-sufficient. No God is created yet. You know, somebody who asks, when will you know that it is time to get married? In my experience, I saw that there was a big gap in my life. I needed company. Until people come to a point where they feel they need somebody else to make them complete, they are not ready for a love commitment yet. Don't bother them. Oh, are you here with me at all? One of these guys who started worrying the wife, you know what the problem was? And the wife issue is, somebody once told me to the face when he was doing some service to me. Of course, our usual conservative nature. Oh, don't do it, it's fine. I'm okay with it. He told me, say, humble yourself and let me bless you. And it was a similar situation in the marriage. The man would simply not allow the wife to even wash for him. You know, there's a place where duties in marriage become burdensome. But there's another dimension where duty and service in marriage become a pleasure. It's an honor that you are rendering service to somebody you love. Yeah. He said, my husband will not allow me to even wash for him. By the time he's coming from work, he has eaten already. He's not coming to eat my food. For Christ's sake, this is somebody who was not ready for marriage. Oh, am I communicating to you at all? You are too self-sufficient. So when people are at that stage, guys, listen to me. If you are at that stage, you are not ready for a lady. Probably all you want is a sex partner. And if it is a sex partner you want, the Lord forgive you. But prostitutes are there. Because these sisters are not sex partners. Did you hear what I said? If the reason for which you want to get into a relationship or marriage is because of sex, then you are not ready for it yet. Number two, that a person is not ready for love. It's when the person is given to too many friends. Guys, at a point, the boys thing will have to reduce a bit. Yeah. The last time Men Only Conference, Dr. Newman said it. Sometimes the playing is too much. You're already in a relationship with this lady and you are still a strong member of the Jama group. And with no shyness, you sing all kind of profane songs. Listen. If you have no respect for the ladies who sit by you, and so you will sing profane because you are teasing them, have respect for your mother through whom you came from. Did you hear what I said? I saw my wife give birth to her second child. And I tell you, women are a gift to humanity. Yeah. When a man knows how to treat a woman, it's his own blessing. And I was called, Mr. Jabba, where are you? Because they felt probably my wife was being too difficult. And that's where those of you going into nursing, you ought to learn simple human manners. I entered into the delivery ward, and the head of my daughter was actually coming out. I could see her head. They wanted my wife to move from a lower bed to the long delivery bed. I said, why did you put her on the lower bed in the first place? And the struggle is that she's not getting up. So how can she get up when the child's head is coming out? And they virtually dragged her to that bed. Now, in that state, you cannot also be too proud because she is at their mercy. So you simply have to shut up. I know one of my friends who after the wife gave birth, almost about 6 months, he said, I've not been able to bring myself to terms to even go to bed with her again because the pain she went through, whenever I get close to her, I seem to have so much pity on her. Listen, when you are singing about a woman's private part, think about the passage through which you came from. The breast of the woman is not just for romance. It is a source of food for a baby. And you fed on that. Or if I'm preaching well, express it now. So when you will come to the point where you get married and yet every single weekend you are out with your guys at the nightclub drinking alcohol, you are not ready for marriage. You are not ready for it. Giving to too many friends. Number 3 sign that the person is actually not ready for love is when the person runs away from responsibilities. Very irresponsible in the relationship. Doesn't care about very basic things. Very, very basic things. You know, one of the signs that will tell you that this guy is really ready for a commitment, visit him in his room and check the way he takes care of himself. His sense of responsibility will tell you a lot. Oh, are you here with me at all? Yeah, I'm not saying go and judge us with an eye of a perfectionist, but every guy has a certain casual aspect of himself. Sometimes we are not as serious as women are. It's a part of us to bring a balance in the home. However, there's an extent of being responsible as a person that can be a sign to tell you whether this person is really ready for love. And you will see it even in a marriage relationship. There are a lot of responsibilities that come up that you expect the man to rise up and be the one in charge. You are walking with a guy on the street and you meet a snake. And he runs away and leaves you. It speaks volumes. Now, why do we need to practice love? What is the need for practicing love? Being at it, trying our hands on it. One of the good ways we learned in school was what we call exercise and correction. You do the exercise, the teacher marks it. That's the correction on the board. So you learn from it. But that is what it means to practice. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. And we do a lot of that here, especially when it's exam time, and you ought to verbalize this thing. You ought to memorize it. Some of you are very good at chewing. Yeah. And you try the first time, you try to bring it out, it's not coming. You open and memorize again. Then you try, you miss a word, you go back. We do a lot of practice in so many aspects of our lives, but we don't do a lot of practicing with love. Why do we need practicing? Let me pick two guys randomly, and I just hope they will not disgrace themselves, to do an exercise. Should I pick from the guys here? Bro, it looks like everybody's calling you. Please come. Okay. My brother in the red tie. Please come. Do you know what we call press up? Do you know what we call press up? You know it. The way Sofo is answering, I don't want trouble. Sofo, you sit that way. Who is very confident with his press up? Where is Ohineba? Oh, Sofo, can please come. All right. So I'm coming to give them, I want to see the two of them who can do the most person. Okay? Why substitution? For who? No, and I don't want two experts, so otherwise we are not closing now. So whichever way he is, I think that is okay. At least he knows how it is done. Okay? All right, so you can go down now, right? So you can start. It doesn't have to be uniform. We will be counting. Who will be counting for the first and who will be okay? And who will count for my brother? You can do that, okay? All right. So let's go. Put your hands together for them. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Can I find out from you, when was the last time you intentionally did a press up? It's been some time, right? When was the last time you intentionally did a press up? It's been some time. Now listen, I speak about this because press up is only one of the things to teach you the reasons why we need to practice love. One of the strong reasons is what we call building of stamina. I can tell you as a minister of the gospel that even in preaching, stamina comes in. I remember once we went for missions in the northern part of the Volta region. And I mean, the message was so much in my spirit. But immediately I mounted the pulpit and spoke for about 10-15 minutes. I realized I was so tired and I was beginning to lose my voice. Immediately I remembered that for the past 1 month or so, though I have been praying, my prayer hasn't really been the travailing type. And whenever you travail and all of that, one of the things it does to your physical body is that it trains your voice. And even singers probably can attest to this stamina thing. Especially those who lead praises. When probably you are supposed to do 5 minutes, and some way, somehow, it turns to 15 minutes praises, and you would need to get songs to keep the thing going. Stamina comes in. It's the same thing even in football. Listen to me. In the journey of love, there's a certain threshold of your patience that you will reach. You cannot dig anymore unless you have stamina. There are some things you cannot stomach anymore. There are some things you cannot entertain in the way human attitude is. It is difficult to live with people. For you to entertain that person in a relationship for 3 years and entertain this person in marriage for 50 years, you need something called stamina. You need an extra store of patience and you need an extra store of love. So that when it runs out, you can delve into the reservoir and tap from there. And that's the reason why we need to practice this thing. Anybody that want to find love being so easy to go about is the type of person who has given himself to doing it on a daily basis, failing and trying to the point where it becomes so much part of yourself. Do you know why your sweetheart shouldn't struggle about your giving life? Because you've been practicing giving long before you met her. Do you know why that guy shouldn't struggle with the way you speak so gracefully and you never insult him? Because you have been working on your temper and how to speak well ever since you were in senior high school. Am I communicating to somebody at all? Yeah. I'm telling you the truth. Until some aspect of things become part of us, it cannot be hidden forever. When we reach our threshold in marriage, we will show an aspect of ourselves, it will shock we ourselves. Was I the one who did this? To what extent have your emotions been tried and you have stood strong? You think you have self-control until you fall into an atmosphere of love. A place where the women in the place, you live in a place, I realized that I've lived in Cape Coast for 10 years and had never witnessed a fashion. Because where I pass and where my life is, I don't get close to certain. So I never knew what happens in the dark part. Until the recent fashion, I was going to the bank. I had even forgotten it was a fashion. And got to town and saw what people do during a fashion. I have a friend who tells me that my brother at the bank, the ladies in the bank, before you say anything, they are all around you. When you get into an environment where all the ladies seem to be seducing you, then you will know whether you have stamina in self-control or not. Oh, am I talking to somebody at all? Yeah. Practicing love. Now let me take you to the gym of love, where we do the practice. So we are entering into the gym. What builds us? What trains us? What makes us exercise? What helps us to practice and become masters in love? The school of love, the gym of love, is a never graduating one. You never graduate till you die. You keep discovering. However, the school of love is more practical than theory. And that is why the 3 days I have been with you guys is a part of the things that will help you in exercising and training yourself for love, but it is very insufficient. The real thing will be when you hit the road and human relationship issues come up. The real test of a person who will love you best is not the person who attended all the 3 days. It is the person who, after the 3 days, learns how to do the practicals. The first element in practicing love is called friends. Say friends. I didn't hear you say friends. It's one of the effective tools that equips us, makes us well trained for love. It's one of the tools that we use to practice in becoming good at love. Friendship. Poor friends cultivating skills might imply poor love relationship skills. Anybody that is very poor in cultivating friends and keeping friends and handling friends and relating with friends, there's a very high tendency the person will be very poor in love relationship. You are never able to keep friends. Almost all your friends that come your way, some way, somehow, leave you in a very bitter way. It's a clear sign to you you have a tendency of doing the same to your love partner. And I learned a few things in my own friendship journey. Let me share a few with you. I realized that my friends taught me this about love. That you don't use certain words for a lady, especially if you are not ready for a love relationship with her. Don't use certain words. In a lovely family like Pentefel, and especially when you get into the choir, it's a place where, it's a good thing. It's a place where we express a lot of love. But sometimes we can go overboard. In the university, sometimes people use all kinds of words. Oh, my sweetheart, give me the words. Including using the word that I don't like to use, looking at somebody and saying, today you look sexy. And I've told you that thing. It is completely cultural, and it is part of the culture of those whose morality is broken. What does it mean to be thirsty? What does it mean to be hungry? What does it mean to be sexy? And I learned this the very hard way. When a lady came to my room to cry, who I never proposed to. So, Victor, why are you behaving like this? You are not as close as you used to be. And I couldn't help it. The way I used to relate to her, there was change. I just didn't feel I related the same way. And I felt I had done nothing wrong until I matured and realized I had done a lot of things wrong. When you keep writing a letter and sending text messages to a lady, and for whatever reason you keep adding, I love you, what do you want the woman to interpret that to mean? And a lot of us have raised the hopes of people unnecessarily because of the kind of words we use for them. So that's one of the things I learned in my relationship with women. Don't use certain words if you are not ready for a relationship with them. Number 2, I learned that frequent touches, no matter how harmless, are very dangerous. And I always mention this experience where it took the Lord's grace that I didn't mess up with one particular friend of mine. Thank God she's now a lawyer and married with 3 children. She's a very pretty lady. But you realize that sometimes we go overboard with the touching thing. Everywhere you meet the person, you hug. Everywhere you hug and you're always holding the hand of the person. All those kind of things. And I don't know whether I did this illustration the other time. Come, my dear. You are my daughter, so I can easily use you for this illustration. When the 2 of us are walking, there is a gap between her arm and my body. But most of the time when you walk with the sisters, they are the ones who are likely to take your hand close to their body. Now you are sure where my hand is. If the person is you should understand what I'm talking about now. I don't need to go far, isn't it? Talent, you have to help the brothers. And the guy cannot say anything because he's your spiritual father or whatever. And you are walking on the street holding the sandal. That is harmless. There's nothing wrong with having hand in hand and walking. But the way you have held my hand alone. And I learned this lesson because the day this surprising thing happened, it was not a day that when I was going to visit her, I planned I would do anything. No. But the fact is that she's the type every time I visit, we will hug. And when we are talking, the slightest, oh, you, me, I don't like that. Yeah, that kind of thing. Some of you, I'm reading your script just like that. Then you hit the shoulder and the person hits you back, that kind of play. On that day, it was a similar kind of play thing. I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that. So that's one of the lessons I learned. Again, I learned that too much attention can arouse another person's interest. Check that. One of the lessons I learned again is that it is proper to resolve strife and conflict quickly than wanting to be too proud, wanting to prove that the other person is wrong. And there were some friends I had far back in primary school. And I'm telling you how much friendship is a gift in being trained in love. I was at loggerheads with this lady for a whole year. And every day I meet her, my heart misses a beat. Because I wish we are in close friendship. I love to talk to her. But the simple thing is that my ego and pride will not allow me. Because I wanted her to rather come to me and admit that she was wrong. And she was not ready to do that. The day I knew I was in class, they were in the upper classes. So a lot of people, I said, what is happening? So the ladies who came for the exchange, whatever, are going back to their country. I wept in my class. I was a little boy, but I learned my lesson. You know what I do now in my marriage? When my wife goes off and she's moody, sometimes it's annoying when your partner just switches off. Oh, some of you do have that experience. It's just annoying. What is this thing? I've not done anything. You just switch off like that. What kind of thing is that? Okay, sit somewhere. Me to let me sit down. No. I learned that lesson long ago that when you do the thing of sit your somewhere, let me sit my somewhere, it can take 1 week, 1 month. And the more it waits, the more the issue compounds and becomes bigger. The very moment my wife gets moody, I am the first to probe. And you can be sure, when you ask a woman what is wrong with you, she is sure to say that I am fine. There's nothing wrong. So friendship teaches all of these kind of lessons. Please bear that at the back of your mind. Again, please remember that not every friendship is for relationship. Some friendships are just to teach you the lesson on understanding how to love people. Number 2 element in the gym of love that trains us is what we call loneliness. Say loneliness. It's amazing, isn't it? Loneliness and singlehood is one of the elements that train us on love and how to love. Sometimes you never see the value of people until you have lost them and you are alone. You know, after all the 4 years in the university and not proposing to Abigail, or in the name of wanting to be sure of God's will and all of that, I saw Abby's value when we started national service. You know, when you're on campus and you're a Christian leader, you have a lot of daughters around you. So you think you have a lot of options. I started national service and realized that all these supposed daughters, I hardly hear from any of them. And that it was only Abigail who was constantly staying in touch. It was when I was separated from the several daughters that I saw the most prominent and most important daughter in my life. It took separation and loneliness to be able to see who the real love among the lot was. Listen to me. There are some of you who right from JHS, there's no single month that passes without you having a love relationship. When it breaks today, latest next month, somebody should come in. And you are missing on something big time. There are a lot of lessons you learn about love by staying away from love. There are a lot of lessons you learn about love by being single and being alone. And it's one of the good things to train us. Please bear that at the back of your mind. The next thing, I'll be ending soon, please. The next thing is the stories of others. Whoa. Let me submit to us. Our own experiences cannot teach us everything. They can be very skewed, even in ministry. If you're a preacher here and a ministry person, be careful of preaching your experience. If you are not careful, you will think somebody's theology is wrong simply because you've not experienced what is experienced. Recently, I heard somebody say that even casting out of demons is not supposed to be done by the New Testament, New Covenant Christian or preacher. And it's interesting, people's views, and it's mostly due to the experience. But if I have taken him for once on mission field to the north, then you understand the reality of demonic possession. Sometimes the stories of other people become what trains us on love. And we get to know people's stories sometimes through the books we read, by coming for programs like this and the examples that will be given. And sometimes by merely walking to somebody, and some of you should be doing that. Brother, can I come to your office? What for? Oh, just to interact with you. Just wanted to know a little about your love journey. What is it that if you had the opportunity to correct, you would do differently? How many of us have been able to probe our grandparents, our parents, our elder siblings, or somebody about some of these personal things? Can you tell me a little about your love journey that you would want to caution me not to do or what to do? You learn from the stories of other people. Let me tell you one of the stories I learned from one of the ladies who was a virgin. I mean, it's painful when people have kept themselves and they are mistreated in marriage. She had kept herself, she was a virgin. They got married, and the problems of the marriage began on the day of honeymoon. All the gifts that were brought, the parcels and everything that were brought. The only day she saw it was that first day. From that day onwards, wherever the man took the things and whatever happened to the cash and the gifts, the woman had no idea. And the man never told the lady anything about where he took those things. And by the time the marriage was 1 year and she was about to give birth, they were planning on divorce. You know what it showed me? It taught me the lesson of transparency. When you are in a relationship where your partner cannot pick your phone, it's a security thing. I don't know whether I have to say it. But God will protect us. My pattern on my phone is the same pattern for my wife. So when she picks my phone, the same pattern she used to unlock hers is the same that unlocks mine. When I'm too careful, my wife seeing my phone, and there's a problem. I learned about transparency from that example. Don't hide things from the person you love. One of the persons I learned something from a story. She stayed in a typical home where, and it's such a brilliant and beautiful thing. One of the things she learned from the people she stayed with, when her husband is about to travel, by the time he wakes up in the morning, his bag is already packed. She, the woman, packs the man's stuff. He's going on a journey, 3-day journey. She packs his stuff with all the perfume and stuff. Well, my wife has never done that anyway. But it's one of the beautiful things. I don't see it as a priority anyway. I can always do without it. And some of us in our nature, we want to pick our things and somebody picking for us. So there are differences. But the beautiful thing I learned about this couple, by the time the man wakes up, and you can be sure that he will never forget his toothbrush. Do you realize those are the things you usually forget behind? You sit in the car, I forgot my belt. So by learning from the experiences and the stories of others, it is one of the key things in the gym and the school of love that trains you in mastery. Last but 2. We learn to practice love by learning from former relationships. Failure is a big school to train. Your old relationships. Why is it that you have broken the first, second, third, fourth, and you have still never learned any lesson from your former relationships? And it looks as if it's the same pattern. Some of us, all we do with our former relationships is to cry about it. But the reason for that breakup is not so you cry, but so you sit down and learn the lessons from what happened in the previous relationship. Number 5, last but 1. We learn to practice love and we are trained in love from what we call communal gatherings. Like church. And I said this because I said it on Friday, I said it yesterday. When you are thinking of marriage, don't just think the two of you. Marriage brings you to a family. Marriage brings you to a community. Immediately you get married, it has implications for your parents. Your parents are part of it. Your in-laws are part of it. There might be a need for a house help. There are some people I know who have adopted children. And a lot of ministry people go that line. They have their children all right, but they just want to take care of somebody who didn't receive proper care. They adopt a child. The presence of your own children make you get a whole community in your household. One of the brothers I know, Isaac's house. I admire them so much. Professor Aaron. His house is a whole congregation. Yeah. So many people living in that place. Listen, if you have not learned how to live with people in a communal way, you will struggle in love. And I'm mentioning these 2 key areas, church and your room. Some of you can never survive with your roommates. And that's why this semester you went for one in a room. Pentefel. When you come for service, the reason for coming for service is not just to hear the word of God and go back. And some of you, you are the first to climb the hill and go back. You think this place is just to come and dance and go back. It's a place where you ask yourself, when I am placed in the midst of a community as a father or a mother, will I be able to behave right? Some of you women are never able to stand the presence of another woman in the kitchen. Two women in the kitchen. You are not able to stand it. It is simply because you've not trained yourself for that. You always find a fault with what the other person is doing. You didn't train yourself with it. So when we are having love therapy, I'm not just talking about go and sleep and pray and dream and see your dream wife and go and propose to her. The practicals begin now when you have not met the person. Yeah. The way you smiled to that level 100 sister and treated her is a sign of the way you will treat your partner. So this is the practice ground. The way you sing and the motivation for your singing. I am singing that people's spirit will be soothed. I am singing that people will be healed. I am singing that people will be ministered to. You know what you are doing? You are being selfless. You are thinking of how people can benefit from your gift. That is a key virtue for love. Where you think of the other person and how to minister to the needs of the other person. That's why I will wish that in this fellowship you build something we call the culture of love. A love culture. Can you turn and look at the person sitting close to you? My time is up. Has that person eaten before coming for this meeting? Well, as for the guys, I know you will say no. As for the guys, I know you will say no. Finally, one of the things that trains us on love and in the practice of love. Listen, this is the most important for all the 3 days. I keep telling people that sometimes the problems in relationships and marriage is not a problem of character or any demon. It's a Christianity problem. The person is simply not a good Christian. Listen, true relationship with God is one of the best things that trains you on how to love people. Do you know that one of the biggest qualities to survive in love is a virtue called forgiveness? And there's no best place to learn forgiveness than your relationship with God. When you yourself admit your own failings and the number of times you have messed up in private, and yet God has mercy on you and you bounce back. It becomes difficult if you are really correct to just look at one mistake of your partner and write to the person off. Because you know that God has had so much mercy on you that you simply will not have the strength enough to look down on your partner because of one failing. Humility. And I keep telling people, any prayer person who is proud is completely immature. True prayer humbles you. Anybody who has a strong gift, prophetic, and the person is proud, it tells you the person is simply immature. For my little walk with God, the more you rise with Him, the more you face situations that humble you on a daily basis. So you know why my home is peaceful? My home is peaceful because I have learned how to forgive by who? From church, from God. He said I should learn to forgive. That's why I forgive. It's not because Abigail is extra beautiful. I forgive not because of Abigail. I forgive because the God that gave Abigail to me taught me to forgive. I am humble in my home and don't speak on top of my voice as if I'm the big boss in the house. I'm not proud. Simply because the God that gave Abigail to me taught me how to humble myself. The one that keeps his relationship with God well gets the best training to be able to express the best kind of love. May the sovereign Lord bless you. May all the things you have heard for the 3 days receive the water of God. Let them bear fruit. When you face the challenges, may they come to bed and defend your cause. In the name of Jesus. Come on, put your hands together for the Lord. Okay, so we'll pick the questions now quickly so that I can be able to conclude with that. Should negative words or actions from a lady's family deter you from going on further to marriage? Not necessarily deterring you, but it should make you cautious. I've learned this in the very few months in the church where I am. One principle. When people don't want you to lead them, don't force yourself to lead them. When people don't want to accept you, don't force yourself on them. If the person's family is not being kind to you, don't force yourself on that family. I always say this. Trust God for an opportunity to prove yourself to that family that you are a gem and a treasure, that it is for their own good to accept you. And I think I've mentioned a number of times that my mother had a problem with Fantis and Ashantis, and my wife is a Fanti who had lived in Kumasi all her life. What worked out was simple. You can never meet Abigail and her countenance alone and her voice, the gracefulness of her voice alone should tell you that this is a different person. So, are you here with me at all? The person has a problem that you are not now. Let the parents wait to meet you and check the kind of person you are and the spirit you carry. It is sufficient for them to know this is the best person for our daughter. So keep praying about the matter and trust God for an opportunity to interact with the family to prove who really you are to them. But don't take their negative words for granted. How can you keep love when certain things like different religions becomes a barrier? I mentioned this yesterday. Is it wise to be friends with your ex? Hey, say hey. There's nothing wrong. You ought to be friends with him or her, but with limits and caution. There's something said I hear there's something said in Ghana, lime momo or something. Old firewood. With the slightest wind, the small fire is in there. It just needs a little ignition. It will just spark up again. So it is very dangerous to be entertaining your ex. Always remember that though in your head and heart you have a new person, your emotions still has a certain connection to your ex. So be careful. What should one do if the guy is all you desire in a man, but you don't like his physical appearance, especially his stature? Do you compromise? This is a very honest question, and it is so true. Let me tell you this. Never proceed to the altar if you cannot be completely proud of the person you are getting married to. Do you hear what I said? And I'm saying this because what you don't like, somebody likes. That is one key thing. Number two, there were some things about my wife then that I really wish they were different. And a number of times that I was pushed up and became moody, it was because sometimes some bits of her dressing and appearances got to me. Now, how did things change? Did she change? A bit? Who changed more? I did. Interestingly, that's why I'm saying that time is a big resource in love issues. I realized that some of the things around Abigail never changed, but I changed so much that I no more saw those negative things. They are there, but honestly, I just couldn't see them. They no more mattered to me. So don't take it for granted if the person you are not attracted and have a problem with the person's physique. But trust God, for all you know, you will change. The things the person can work on, like dressing, appearance, hairstyle, talk it out. The person can improve on some of those things. Okay? Man of God, I like the daughter of my church's elder. She is so spiritus. I don't see the other word. Plus, we are age mates. And so after school, I feel there will be pressure on me to marry her. What should I do? I'm not getting the question well, but you like your eldest daughter. There's no problem with that. The best place to marry is from within, isn't it? Yeah. Just that when you have to get involved with some of those, you have to be wise and tactful. Okay? She's so spiritual. We are age mates. After school, I feel there will be pressure on me to marry her. But you like her. I thought you said you like her. They are age mates. Sure. The places love can take you to. I know several people. Actually, former President Kufuor, the wife is far older than sorry, I didn't know about that. So it is possible for even the woman to be older than the man. So how much more age mate? Doesn't matter. However, for whichever choice you go for, know the implications. Especially if the guy is far older than you, or the lady is far older than you, always know that because of the lot of pressure women go through, they usually physically age faster than men. So if she's already older than you, know that in old age, it is likely that she will look a little older than you. And accept that at that time, you will not be going for small girls. Or accept that if he is far older than you, when he becomes weak in bed, you wouldn't go for small boys. If you are ready for that, then you are good to go. How do you deal with a situation where you feel your partner is taking you for granted? Do you have somebody who talks to you in a relationship? And a lot of you are doing too many private relationships. Nobody talks into your life. There are sometimes some of the people, the way they are behaving in the relationship, somebody simply needs to call the person and rebuke the person a little. So stop the fooling a bit. Oh, are you getting me at all? Get somebody to be involved in that relationship. How can you get the full attention of your love? Sometimes when people are not giving you attention, probably it's because somebody is distracting them. And when people distract them, why are they distracting them? Sometimes because of their own personal greed, or maybe you are behaving way below par. So up your game. Yesterday I talked about self-improvement. The way you appear, the way you talk, the way you handle things. Up your game, polish up a bit. Okay? But make sure you don't come to a point where your life is also so much about simply impressing a man or a woman. It can be too dangerous. I'm in a relationship with this guy for 6 to 7 years. God have mercy on you. But I hardly find it difficult to totally fall in love with him. Besides, he loves me. I do same, but I can't completely fall for him. Neither do I cheat on him too. Maybe I need to understand what it means to fall really for him. And what do you mean you love him, but he's not falling for him? They are too technical. But please understand that true love also involves the emotional and sexual attraction. It's part of it. For 6, 7 years, that's too long. When do you want to get married? We probably need to talk. Yeah. How do you date with a chronic illness like hepatitis B? Do you tell the person before the relationship or after? If you tell the person before and you are rejected, they might tell others, and and if you tell them before too, they might think you deceive them. Listen, you are the nurse. I don't think hepatitis situation is hopeless. No, not at all. Please let people know who you are. Don't hide your identity. Because whether you like it or not, when you get married, it will come up. So kindly let the person know. And if the person has known you for who you are, listen, people don't know us simply by our appearance. They know us by our heart. You think the person will be mad, but I can tell you, he might be the greatest supporter in dealing with that physical health challenge. So don't hide it. So do I still keep taking the question? I should pause at time, right? How do you help a person in a problem when she has showed interest in you? So if I'm to understand, the person has a problem, you are helping the person deal with it, and yet the person has now showed interest. Listen, it's one of the easy ways to fall in love. When you are making an effort to help somebody, there are a lot of times that in an effort to counsel people, you end up dating them. So you always have to be very careful. That is why I call for complete self-awareness. Always be very self-aware of the change of your emotions. She came as a counselee. Immediately your attention started drawing, and you saw that affection stepped in. If you don't want that thing to go further, take a step backwards. Otherwise, I can tell you for a truth, it will get to a point where the love relationship or the interest will cloud even dealing with the problem that the person came with. And you might eventually have to refer the issue to somebody else. Let's go before the Lord briefly in prayer. I think there's been so many things you shared. I can tell you, all our questions can never be answered totally. Keep interacting, keep talking to the Lord. Please just give me a few keys. I have a very short time to stand here. I want somebody to come honestly before the Lord after these 3 days. What is your heart burden? Take any posture you want. You want to kneel down, do it. You want to stand up, do it. Say that, Lord, my love life has been a mess. My love life has not seen hope. I get afraid about whether I will ever meet somebody I love. Tell God the honesty about the way you feel. Tell God how much you are tired about love issues and relationships. That they have become too many, Lord. One relationship breaks after another and I don't see any hope. Talk to Him. Some of you have come to a point where you don't trust your own self anymore. Because you feel you are so vulnerable. Any guy that comes, by the time you are away, you're giving yourself to the person, they even do that plan. Please talk to Him. He's your Father. Assume any posture you want. Say, God, I cannot continue this way. Lord, love therapy did not just come to give me head knowledge. I am trusting you this morning that this matter drops. This problem ceases. Fadelebakushe Branta Mahaya. Ferabakushe Brante Rababando Sata.